On today's episode of Rowdy Riley's Sports Review, I'll talk about historic moments, both professional and collegiate, that will forever be talked about by fan bases. These events will be in chronological order. Sports can often be described by the phrase, "It's not over until the fat lady has sung."
Welcome to the Rowdy Riley Sports Review. My name is Rowdy Riley. Let's get rowdy!
The first event I'll talk about is the Music City Miracle. The Music City Miracle occurred on January 8th of 2000 at the end of an AFC wildcard playoff game in Nashville. Let me set the scene here, guys. The Titans were down 16-15 with 16 seconds to go in the game against the Buffalo Bills. All the Titans needed to do was score to move on in the playoffs. And score they did in spectacular fashion. What had happened was tight end Frank Wycheck threw a lateral pass to Kevin Dyson, who then ran for a 75-yard touchdown all the way to the state capitol. Sorry, I had to get my little bit of John Ward in there. I encourage you all to go watch the play after this video. I can only imagine what Adelphia Coliseum, which is now called Nissan Stadium, was like during and after the play happened. Nissan Stadium is also home to another important sports moment, which I will talk about later with a couple special guests. While this collegiate moment did not happen in the state of Tennessee, it still involves a team from the state. That is because it happened on the campus of the University of Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs were about to win the game, or so they thought. Georgia was up 31-28 with 10 seconds left in the game. The events that happened were as follows. Tennessee returned the ensuing kickoff for a 20-yard run and then called a timeout. Once play resumed, Josh Dobbs threw a 43-yard pass to Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings caught the game-winning ball in spectacular fashion. He leapt up from the end zone to catch it. You heard me right. He went vertical to catch the ball. Unlike so many other sports moments in Lipscomb NCAA era history, I actually got to witness this moment in Allen Arena, which I should point out, much like the Tennessee versus University of Georgia game, did not happen in the state of Tennessee. This moment happened on the campus of Florida Gulf Coast University. Many Lipscomb sports fans that watch my show know the moment I'm talking about. It is when Lipscomb's men's basketball team found out that they were going to the big dance for the first time in school history. I watched history being made and had such a visceral reaction that I wanted to capture the moment forever and actually live streamed the last few seconds of the game to Facebook. When it was found out that Lipscomb was moving on to the big dance, several of my friends from the cross-country and track and field teams and I stormed the Don Meyer court in Allen Arena. I was so pumped that I even ran one of them over, pun intended. The next sports moment I'll talk about is the 2019 NFL Draft in Nashville. I was still attending Lipscomb's Ideal program at the time. The draft happened to be held on Broadway, which is a street in downtown Nashville that happens to be a mega tourist attraction in its own right. I believe there were easily over 100,000 people packed like sardines into a 3-block stretch of road. This may have been the most successful NFL draft in history. However, the NFL draft made history in another way, which we will see later. Just like the Tennessee versus University of Georgia game, as well as the Lipscomb versus Florida Gulf Coast 2018 men's basketball championship, this moment did not happen in the state of Tennessee. Imagine being a Nashville Predators fan and getting ready to celebrate a 4-2 win over the Blackhawks. All the Blackhawk fans probably started to think about leaving as Pekka Rinne, Nashville Predators goaltender, slaps the puck from behind the Predators goal over every other player, and the puck lands and slides into the opposing goal, forcing a goalie goal. Here's how special a goalie goal is. This was the first time since 2013 that a goalie had gotten to score. Yes, do the math with me. 7 years since a goalie had scored. Rinne is the 12th different goalie in NHL history to score. He simultaneously became the 7th goalie to score with a shot on net. Clearly, a goalie goal is something that you don't get to witness a whole lot. Remember earlier when I said that Nissan Stadium was going to be home to another sports moment? This is the moment. After years of soccer being in Nashville, the time had finally come for Nashville Soccer Club to kick off its inaugural MLS season. This event was kicked off by several celebrities. However, it's not what happened before the game that I'm going to cover, however. It's what happened during the game in the first half that I'm going to cover. This momentous occasion was capped off in the first 30 minutes of play by Walker Zimmerman, who scored Nashville SC's first ever MLS goal in the 28th minute of play. The inaugural match set another record for soccer in the volunteer state. 59,069 ravenous, hungry, supportive soccer fans packed Nissan Stadium in the inaugural match against Atlanta United. This had topped the previous record, which was the match between Manchester City and Tottenham, which was also held at Nissan, by 2,837 people. It is still unbelievable to this day that a brand new MLS expansion club almost sold out Nissan Stadium. I'm actually sitting with a couple commentators from the USL days of Nashville soccer. I'm going to ask them what they thought of the first goal in MLS. One of them actually called it, and he will actually play it for us as well. Let's go talk to Ronnie Woodard and John Freeman.
Hey, yeah, I'm glad to be on, and you asked me about the first goal, and man, does that feel like it was forever ago. It was cold, it was dark, Nobody had ever seen a game like that in Nissan Stadium. There are 59,000 people there, and now we can't even gather in groups of 10. So it's really just a wild ride since that goal, and it wasn't that long ago, but it still feels fresh and good whenever I think about it and hear it. And I certainly miss calling the games, and I hope we get to call some more goals soon. I didn't think that the goal that I called in February 29th, 2020 would be the last goal I'd call for at least 3 months. If you told me that, I would have told you Nashville was having a really, really, really bad season. But the difference is they've only played 2 games. And I think once they get back going, there'll be more goals. Were you there, or did you see the goal at all, Riley?
Truth be told, I was on the other side of the Cumberland at the Preds game. The clutch performance of the game, they did say, was Zimmerman's goal.
It was. And I was worried going into that game that this was such a big occasion. And soccer is about the one sport where there's not guaranteed to be a goal. If you go to a hockey game and they go 0-0, they're going to go to a shootout, and somebody's got to win by scoring a goal. In football, somebody's got to win by scoring a point. Basketball, we know there's points in the first 2 minutes. I was really worried going into this soccer game that there are going to be 59,000 fans there, and a goal is not guaranteed. So the fact that, we got one really early there, I think it was probably in the first 25 or so minutes, was just this relief of like, man, we got that moment. And it was a special moment. I wish you were there for it, but I know the Preds are a big deal too.
I couldn't pass up an opportunity like the Preds. I was physically at the Preds, but my head was across the river.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Ronnie what she thought of the goal, being a fan in the sea of 59,000.
Oh, so it was really amazing, to be honest. It was different. I was actually, in all sincerity, yearning to hear John's call, because I had listened to it for 2 years and I've grown accustomed to it, and I have a fond affection for his goal calls and his excitement. And I always love that he comes up with something clever every time he has a goal call. So from now on, I'm probably going to have his radio in my ears while I'm watching the game live in the stands. But the goal was great in a lot of different ways. One, I like that the target, he was obviously the target on the ball that was played in from Mukhtar, right? So Mukhtar played a nice bending ball in. The biggest thing that was apparent was there was a mismatch between Martinez and Zimmerman. So Martinez was marking him, and he's maybe 5'6". How tall is he, John?
Yeah, he's tiny. I think he's listed at 5'8", but that probably means he's 5'6".
No way, right? And Zimmerman's 6'1", 6'2".
He's a big dude.
He's a big
I think he might even be bigger than that. Yeah.
So Atlanta made a big mistake and had a huge mismatch. And so it's almost comical if you rewatch the goal, which, John, I'm sure you have a couple of times. When the ball's bent in, Zimmerman almost steps over Martinez to get the ball. Like, he pushes him to the ground a little bit, heads the ball over him, and Martinez is so slight that he just kind of stays on the ground, and then the ball's just loose in front of Zimmerman, and he just keeps his momentum and strikes the ball home. So I love that the play was done correctly, and obviously they had scouted pretty well. And unfortunately, Atlanta did not scout well. They should have known that Zimmerman was going to be a target, and they should have had a little bit better matchup than looking up and having Martinez there. And then, of course, John knows this, I love a half chance. So anytime there's a bouncing ball around in there and someone's just gritty and puts in the back of the net, I'm a huge fan. So that's the soccer side of the experience. But, man, the excitement in the stands, it was like no other, really. I was so happy to be in the middle of it. You could barely see. My 10-year-old was with me. Thomas was with me and his buddy. And they were standing on top of the chairs because everyone stood the whole game and nobody sat down and nobody could see. So if you were small, you couldn't see. And so the excitement, and it was the goal right in front of where our season tickets are. So we had a great look at the goal when it came across and the ball was bent in. And I'm sure I videotaped the reaction. on my phone somewhere. But man, the sheer thrill of just being in there and the electricity that was in the stadium that day, just in general, it was just irreplaceable. Honestly, like I always watched it from above with John, and there's some amazing energy during the USL games. But sitting down there and being in the pit with season ticket holders and then seeing the first goal and just that positivity that just electrified the stadium at that point. It was great.
I've actually, in preparation for the interview, last night I actually went back and watched several highlights of yours, John, including the goal, just to get used to your cadence.
Ronnie had to do that too.
I did.
He had to get used to it. Thankfully, I've had a lot of highlights to call. You know, we had a really good 2 years in USL and a really good 2 games here in MLS. But I appreciate you going back and watching those highlights. Sometimes you go to a game and they give you a headset, you know, and I'm just wearing earbuds that have microphones, but you get this big old headset. And there's, you know, somebody, a producer in your ear telling you when to go and when to talk and what these graphics are. And there's all these fans in the stadium. So in the case of the first game, 59,000 people, and none of them can hear me. And I'm calling this game, and what happens is it goes back to the radio station, and then they shoot it out in their transmitters, and it's picked up in cars and anybody that's got a radio. But I never see the audience. So it's really neat to go back after a game and somebody will say, "Hey, we heard your call. You know, I can't believe what you said," is usually what they start with. But they'll say, "We heard your call." So when I hear that, you know, that you went back and listened, that means a lot to me, because I don't see who I'm talking to. It's about the only way you can talk in this world to a lot of people without being able to see them, except on the phone if you're calling 1 or 2 people. In my case, it might be thousands of people. So yeah, I appreciate you watching those highlights. I hope you liked them. You never know. People can be pretty critical these days. So if you've got some critique, I will gladly take it.
John, would you actually mind playing the?
Sure. Yeah, I think I got it. Let me see.
Free kick set, angle to the right of the target, about 40 yards away from the goal. That Suzanne is protecting. Cross comes in from Mukhtar. It's right on top.
There's gold made in gold.
I'm not always that excited.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You are. And as soon as he finishes, he looks at me and he goes. So I just get quiet so they can hear the crowd, right? Because I'm always like, "Oh."
My thanks to John Freeman and Ronnie Woodard for joining me. I really enjoyed their unique perspectives on the same exact experience. I know I said that there was going to be another moment that involved the NFL draft. Like most things that were affected this year, the NFL draft was supposed to happen in Las Vegas. Well, thank you, Corona. We all know that it happened over technology like Microsoft Teams or Zoom all over the country. I'm talking head coaches' homes, GM's homes, owners' homes. Heck, even Bill Belichick's dog acted like he was drafting for the Patriots. It was interesting for me to see what happened in a year's time concerning the NFL draft. In light of the coronavirus, NBC did something cool with what was supposed to be the 146th consecutive running of the Kentucky Derby. Instead of the stands being filled pretty much to capacity and the horses who qualified run, much like everything else, it went virtual. the past 13 Triple Crown winners raced head-to-head in a computer simulation, which it amazes me that a sport like horse racing can go virtual. For those viewers who were alive when Secretariat actually won his Kentucky Derby, he won the virtual Derby in much the same way, with coming from behind the rest of the pack. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about sports history. This is Rowdy Riley telling you to always stay rowdy.